The other problem is that, as anyone in Hollywood who's worked with me before would know, I am just a perfectionist. And if there were any jokes or bits that I didn't think landed, whole podcast from the top. So 1 hour of content took about 7 or 8 hours to record. Basically had to speed run it, just perfect run every time.
Yeah.
And if there was, because, we were all using janky setups, if there was a loose sound, say like a cat in the background or somebody's husband spilled some Cheerios, if that was part of what I considered a good take, it had to happen again. It had to.
Oh, no.
And between working full-time and being a student full-time at the time, just one thing had to go. And unfortunately, the clientele of Flour Bakery in Boston needed me more.
Unfortunately, when I'm releasing this episode, if you mess up at all, I'm leaving it all in. Every single bit of it. All of your imperfections will be laid bare for the audience.
Shit.
Also your cusses. I will not censor them.
Fuck.
People will know that you're capable of swearing.
Shit. I should probably stop.
You should, but you won't.
Do they swear in Pokemon? Do they have, in-universe?
They don't. They don't even have fake swears.
They don't. I'm not realizing that. Do they say darn? Darn!
Yeah, they'll say darn. They might say heck. I think there might be a heck in there somewhere.
But I don't think they're... maybe.
I think that's, the furthest they go.
Yeah. I feel like they should have, an in-universe, overused, frack or dank ferric.
I think it would be charming if they took Arceus's name in vain.
Ooh. Because then you could smite them.
Yeah, exactly.
With
you can use judgment.
Arceus. Do you say Arceus or Arceus?
I usually say Arceus, but I have been poisoned by the apparently official correct pronunciation at this point.
Yeah, I think it's probably Arceus.
The problem is in Japanese, which it is Arceus in Japanese. That's how they say it. And the vast majority of the time, they don't bother localizing the legendary names.
Why should
they did it this time just to spite me.
You specifically.
But the time that they mentioned Arceus on the show House MD, he did say Arceus.
And who are we to argue with?
And who are we to argue with Hugh Laurie? Exactly.
How many Emmys does he have?
More than one.
More than me.
As well. Anyway, hello, welcome to Elite Full Restore. It's a Pokemon podcast that I record when I feel like it sometimes, maybe when there's news, maybe when a friend wants to be on the podcast. My name is Matt, and with me today, I got Kiko.
You got Kiko Bell in the house.
You got Kiko Bell in the house. We're doing our drink pops. I got one too.
And a fresh can of Full Restore, which is what I call Coca-Cola Zero Sugar.
Nice. I have a Makes You Pucker dry hopped sour beer.
Well, we can't all be cool. We can't all be...
It's cool. It has a skull on the can.
Oh, that's how you know it might kill you.
Skulls on the can. That's how you know it's poison.
Right.
As alcohol is, of course, poison.
Yes, it is. It's a poison type drink.
Yeah, exactly. So this week I say this week as if the last time I recorded wasn't literally last March.
That could be a week ago. Who can
on
tell?
This episode of Elite Full Restore, there has been many announcements over the last several months, but we're mostly talking about the most recent one.
Mm-hmm.
So the most recent direct that they did to announce Pokemon stuff, which was the day before Pokemon Day, we are receiving a remake of Diamond and Pearl.
You could call it that.
Yep, you could call it that. It's very funny because, in the early part of the series when, Sun and Moon... the early part of this podcast when Sun and Moon had just come out, which is, that's how long this podcast has existed, despite only having 18 episodes.
I mean, that's more than there are...
I do have a current better record than Kid Fight, yes.
Yes, you do.
It is still in my podcatcher, and I will not remove it.
I don't know if you can listen to it because a couple months ago I was looking over my budget spreadsheet and I was like, do I really need to be given $5 to Libsyn just so
Oh yeah,
my buddy
no. If
Matt
you
can
aren't
listen
paying
to
them, they do leave the episodes up.
Oh, that's so kind of them.
Yeah, it's just you are essentially paying for upload room that you were not using.
Well, you learn something new every day. I mean,
you learn something new every day. If they do eventually take them down, I will host them for free. You know this.
Oh yeah, right.
But essentially, we were talking in about Sun and Moon, and there's like a whole bunch of like oblique references to Sinnoh in that game. Like they introduced like Type Null and Sylvie in that game, which are like obvious Arceus references.
Yes.
And then there was all this stuff about like alternate dimensions with the Ultra Space that could have easily tied into Distortion World.
Yes.
And then they just didn't.
Nope.
And instead we're getting something entirely different, but I'll get through the rest of the news first.
Yes.
The second thing that was announced was something called Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is a more open world style Pokemon game, which is set in the past of Sinnoh. Some people have like estimated that it's like, if we're going like by Japanese historical periods, it's probably around like the Meiji Restoration.
Sounds about right.
I guess sounds about right, like late 1800s, early 1900s kind of thing. But yes. Of course, like Pokemon is not a one-to-one to the real world, but it just kind of matched the outfits and the technology of the time. And then the third thing was just more information about the Pokemon Snap game, which is literally called New Pokemon Snap. Because Nintendo has it out for me personally by making all their titles embarrassing and bad.
I mean, that is written on the very top of the whiteboard in every meeting.
Yeah, it was like, how can we make this title stupid?
Above,
like there's supposed to be like there's again rumors about there being like a new model of the Switch that they're supposed to announce this year, and like I know it's just gonna be called like the fucking like new Switch XL or some dumb shit like that.
Pop off.
But yeah, the Pokemon Snap is made by is it Bandai Namco that's doing this one? I feel like it's Bandai Namco.
I feel like whenever Nintendo needs something done to a degree of a certain degree of quality, but also like they don't want to have their hands on it too much. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, because that's who does Smash Bros. With along with Sakurai, who they have chained in a dungeon at this point.
Yes, and it's a nice dungeon, but it is a dungeon.
It is a very nice dungeon. But yeah, the Pokemon Snap game actually looks really pretty.
Yeah,
I guess this technically wasn't an announcement, but also like I haven't done an episode of this podcast since it has been announced. So
right. I mean, if you, I don't want to be, I don't want to be mean or.
You're allowed to be mean. That's
I know.
What this podcast is for. Be mean. Let's go.
That looks like the best one of the bunch.
Oh yeah, out of the three for sure.
To me, understanding that I have. Despite my best efforts, not been the target audience for these games since I was about 10 years old. And maybe 12.
It's funny because I feel like the Pokemon Legends game is definitely trying to aim to older fans a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I have many thoughts, but I will hold off on unleashing them until prompted.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, I guess we'll start with the Diamond and Pearl in heavy quotes remake. Mm-hmm. So, what was your first like thoughts seeing the trailer for this one?
I don't want to be mean.
You are encouraged and allowed to be mean.
Okay. Well, here's what I mean when I say I don't want to be mean. I have kind of two reactions to every piece of media I encounter. One is my gut reaction, which is, I think what most people experience. Like, do I like it? Does it look good? Does it please my eyes? Does it splash my cerebellum with that front row seat at SeaWorld splash of dopamine? And it didn't. But then I'm always like, well, what do I know? The only video game I've ever tried to make was in WarioWare DIY. And it took me like 5 hours, and it was so painful. It was so painful. And I was just like, this isn't fun. How can anyone do this? And then when I went to art school and I tried making my very own cartoons, I was like, this sucks. This sucks so bad. Why does anyone do this? And that just made me really appreciate the experience of, if you can, because I don't want to be a gatekeeper, But if
Right.
if I possibly can, I like to try making the thing in the most tiny personal, way that I can before I criticize it. So with any video game, I'm of the mind that if I, as a consumer, a passionate consumer, but a consumer, can't think of something constructive to say, I shouldn't say anything. But I'm here on this podcast, and I'm gonna say that game does look like hot dog water. Like, it doesn't.
I have grown on it a little bit since I first saw the trailer. And my inkling is like, when I first saw the trailer for Let's Go, I thought it looked like kind of tepid as well.
Yeah.
But I think like when they got the last bit of polish on that, it did look a lot better.
Right.
But what I think is part of the problem with this one is less the polish and more the specific style they're going for.
Yeah.
Which is not really something that you could fix with polish.
Right. And
that said, I don't necessarily need the game to look amazing.
Right.
Because it's like when you're playing this game on a DS, I'm generally going to be more biased towards pixel art. So like I think the pixels look fine. I did just replay Platinum like last year, and it still looks good. But really what I want is like a more mechanically updated Pokemon experience. And I'm not necessarily looking for like the state-of-the-art graphic look for anything in Pokemon.
Right. For me, with
But it really does just kind of look like a mobile game.
Yeah, it looks. My first thought when I saw it was that it looks like one of those ads for a free-to-play Pokemon, like not even like rip-off, like just straight-up Pokemon characters. Like
right. And then you
Pokemon
open the game and it doesn't look anything like Pokemon at all. But they're just using Pokemon in their advertisements on Facebook because that's not illegal for some reason.
Right. I mean, Facebook should be illegal at this point, but
yes,
different podcast. Yeah, it just the style isn't for me, and the I'm not a cop about like polygon counts or textures. I think a little bit of stylization goes a long way. I'm all for like lo-fi, low poly looking games. Right. But that's not what they're going for here, and it's not a full, it is actually interesting to me that they're maintaining like a 1-to-1 match to the like original game's like tile placement.
Right. Because like they did something very similar with Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, but they still like clearly updated it to like look like the X and Y graphic system.
Yeah, closer
like
to
the overworld still like looked more 3D.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely a 1-to-1 tile recreation of Hoenn.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems, I guess like what happened was basically like, well, first of all, this game is not being done by Game Freak. That's something we didn't really come with off the top. I already forget the name of the team that does it. But
yeah, me too.
Their pedigree is like kind of good. Like they worked on Dragon Quest XI.
Oh, I love that game.
Like they do a lot of like supplemental work on like big RPGs. I think they were involved in one of the Niers. I don't know if it was Automata or not. But of course, the most important thing that they worked on is they made the Hatsune Miku Domino's Pizza VR application.
Scratch everything I said. The game looks great.
Exactly.
Looks great.
So like when I first saw that it was like a mostly mobile developer that did it, I was like, you could find any number of people and groups of people that would gladly take the contract for a Pokemon game. Like it just seemed like a really weird pick.
Especially
like
a remake.
The main thing they'd done with Pokemon, they're the ones responsible for the design of Pokemon Home, which is the ludicrously expensive Pokemon storage app.
Had that come out when your last episode came out?
It had.
Okay.
But like you can still talk about it. I spend way too much money on it every year, so
yeah, I'm pretty sure I've only paid for it once so far, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, I already paid for the renewal, so it's been out for at least a year. And it's more expensive in Canada, naturally, even considering the exchange rate.
Yeah, I mean,
that's.
First of all, I'm sorry for that.
I am storing over 5,000 Pokemon in it, out of the 6,000 that you're allowed to store in it.
So you're getting your money's worth, yeah.
I am getting my money's worth. I am in the upper echelon of users.
I have like,
as far as this kind of story
I got like
goes.
20 Pokemon on there, and I don't even know which game they're from.
Well, yeah, exactly. If you only have 20 Pokemon on there, then you could just use the free one because you get 30 Pokemon space for free.
I'm just such a little shill for the Pokemon company. I'm like, they need my money. I need to help them. They need my help.
You need to help them so that they can afford to hire slightly more reputable developers for their projects.
You know, I on the one hand, I understand that I'm not the target audience for this particular Pokemon game. Like,
I mean, you kind of are. Because, like, I feel like this is generally going to be aimed at people who played Diamond and Pearl as youths.
But it doesn't...
And you would have been a youth at the time.
I was, if I recall. But I don't... The reason I don't agree with that is because I don't think it looks as good as the originals. So I feel like it's going to end up appealing most to people who are playing these games for the first time. Or people who are way in it like you. And there's some, like, I don't know, like there's like a tile of grass in the upper west corner of the region that spawns a particular Pokemon with like the right IVs if you play it at 4 a.m. or something, and that alone will give it a legion of loyal followers.
Well, like for me, it's like if this game has some of the move tutors that Platinum had, and like allows like different moveset configurations as a result, that's enough for me to get me to buy the game.
Exactly.
Like that's the level I'm operating on. I'm operating on the level of I can update my spreadsheets once this game is out.
See, exactly.
Like
and
it's such a completely different level than most people are interacting with it, right?
Right. And they're all valid. I'm just saying, like, I'm the kind of person who, in the past, I felt very catered to with the remakes because I was like, I remember this, and now it's shiny and new, and this doesn't look shiny or new enough for me. Like,
right? Because I don't think by any like aesthetic measurement you can say this one looks better.
No,
you can definitely say it looks different. Because like let's just like go through the past history of the remakes, right? Like. Red and Blue to Fire Red Leaf Green, obvious improvement. Like it's like they are able to use color now.
It makes the game like playable. No offense to the original, but like I love the original. I have some very precious memories with it, but it's hard to play.
Yeah.
And
then let's see, like Gold and Silver to Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I really like the aesthetics of the Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
But like at that point, it was also like a huge mechanical upgrade because like Gen 3 had abilities, so that was already like an improvement over Red and Blue, but then you have like the physical special split. I can barely play old games that don't have that anymore.
Right.
To the point where like I have played lots of like ROM hacks of Gen 2 games that add that in rather than play the old games again because it's just like it's such a mechanical improvement to the battles.
Yeah, I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver Heart Gold and Soul Silver. See, this is why you don't skip your warm-ups before you record a podcast. Those might be my favorite Pokemon games. I go back and forth, but they might be
they might be one of the they're definitely one of the best ones. It had most of the content from Crystal, which is something that has been lacking from a lot of the remakes otherwise. Then you have Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, like they're almost like one-to-one ports of Ruby and Sapphire, except they did a lot of like different things with they kind of made it like an alternate universe to explain the fact that Mega Evolution was there, which I thought was like kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, and
I think it's really weird that they redesigned the Team Magma and Aqua and made them like look good, and then when they brought those characters back in Ultra Sun and Moon, they made them ugly again.
I don't remember that. Oh, because I didn't play Ultra Sun and Moon. That did.
Yeah, you should, because they're not worth it. Complete dog water games, absolute dog shit, not worth it. And I mean, one of the previous titles of this podcast, there was an episode titled "But Archie Be Hot," so like I clearly have a lot of opinions on this. One thing that they kind of stepped back on with this remake is that they did not include like basically any Emerald content. So there was no Battle Frontier. There was like a reference to the Battle Frontier that was done.
That was weird.
In a way that was like expressly to piss me off.
I remember reading that like dialogue box and thinking, I remember reading that dialogue box and being like, oh, is that going to be DLC? And then it just didn't happen.
Right.
Also, why don't
they hadn't done DLC at that point.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. It felt like something got canceled there behind the scenes.
Yeah, and then the other thing that with Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire that was kind of weird is that it was the first time that like new Pokemon or new forms had been added within a generation. And the fact that they hadn't like backpatched those into X and Y was really weird because you were forced to get the remake to like continue with like competitive or anything like that in that generation, which I thought was an odd choice.
Good games though, and I think see there are the elements to every Pokemon game that I call like the bottom screen element. I mean, the ones the dual screen systems anyway. And that one I had my favorites, like being able to see which what Pokemon
are available on the route.
Exactly, like
Daxnav ruled.
Yeah, and then they just always get rid of it with the next generation.
Yes,
and that's kind of a microcosm of my greater issues with the series, which
the newest Twitch Plays Pokemon. Twitch Plays Pokemon, by the way, still exists.
Of course,
it still do runs all the time. The newest Twitch Plays Pokemon has like a controller that reads the game code and like displays a Dexnav on the screen.
It's pretty cool.
It's really cool because like since it's reading the game code directly whenever I say we because I actually have been working on the most recent Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Oh, nice.
I managed to worm my way in there. Whenever we change the encounter tables and like update the ROM, it will be updated on its own. You don't have to do anything. So they know what's on a route. It's pretty cool.
Wow. See,
so like that's the kind of stuff that they need to keep an eye on is the kind of stuff that the fans are really into modding into their games. Like maybe consider just putting those in the games.
I think the reason they don't is because pretty much every decision, it seems, that they make when it comes to a Pokemon game is, would this confuse a 7-year-old? And if the answer is yes, they don't put it in.
That's the thing, though. It's like, I didn't mind being confused when I played a game.
Here's how video games... Here's how video game illiterate I was when I first played my very first Pokemon game, which was Ruby. They show you, they could not hold your hand more to show you how to catch a Pokemon. They make you watch like an unskippable sequence in which a player, the player character has no control, and a character shows you how to do it step by step. And I watched it and I thought, huh. And I just kept playing and I didn't catch any Pokemon until after the third gym. I didn't catch any. I just had me and my Trico, who was super overleveled, so I got through first gym, rock type, easy.
No problem.
This is the second gym. Is it Brawly?
Fighting type. It's Brawly, yeah.
Well, I got to Brawly and I couldn't do it. I don't know which Pokemon he had on his team, but I couldn't do it. And I couldn't figure out how to catch a Pokemon. And I don't know, I guess I was too young to just Google it. So I was just struggling and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go through the cave without Flash. And I did it. I broke the sequence and I just muscled my way through the cave, killing Zubats left and right, and got through it and found Steven and got to Mauville City. And then I like beat the third gym somehow with just still one Pokemon. And I was like, I bet I could go back and beat Brawly at this point. So I did. So like, you're right. Kids can figure it out even if they're not smart like me. And I feel like their standard, specifically Game Freak's standard of what would confuse a child keeps getting lower and lower.
It's really weird because like they are a company that by all means should be significantly larger than they are.
Right.
By just like the sheer market cap of Pokemon.
Right.
But like Pokemon makes less on the games than it makes on merchandise by like a 20-to-1 factor now.
Yeah.
So they are like they are like 1/3 owners of the Pokemon company itself. Mm-hmm. So like they still make money off of that.
Of course.
But I don't know, it's like it almost seems like it seems like they kind of phone it in a little.
Yeah, I mean,
not a bold opinion, but
you're not wrong, and you can see them pushing up against the edges of the each game's limitations each time. Like the way that like the wild area in Sword and Shield just chugs at times when you're playing online.
Yeah.
And it's like you can really tell that they are a small team who they don't always know what they're doing in a technical sense. And it would be so easy for them to just be like, hey, Tencent, here's like a multi-billion-dollar deal. You can make Pokemon games for us. And then Tencent would take their evil money and just be like, okay, here's like a Genshin.
Their evil, disgusting money.
Yeah.
I mean, they are making a game with Tencent.
Oh, okay.
We didn't mention it.
Oops.
We didn't mention it in the announcement because it wasn't in this announcement, but they actually have a MOBA for mobile phones, which is testing in Canada right now. I can download it, but my phone sucks shit, so I'm not going to do it.
I mean, it's probably
also
fine,
it's a MOBA, so I'm not going to have fun.
There is that. I mean, swap out Tencent for any like mega developer, you know, like.
Well, one thing that I thought would have worked really well for just the concept of building the wild area is like, why not get Monolith Soft on it? Because like Monolith Soft helped out with Breath of the Wild.
They did. They know how to make a grassy hill. They sure know how to do that. They know how to
make a grassy hill look really fucking good.
They do.
One thing with the Pokemon MOBA that I do think is really cool, though, is the selection of characters. Do you know anything about the selection of characters?
No, I don't. Tell me about the selection of characters.
I'm just gonna read some out to you. I'm gonna read them out of order, so you're gonna get the obvious ones first. Mm-hmm. Pikachu.
No way.
Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise.
Okay.
Greninja, Lucario. Snorlax, Garchomp, Gardevoir.
Okay.
Mr. Mime.
Excellent. Because I was about to say this lineup wasn't sexy enough.
Yeah. Slowbro.
Excellent.
Cramorant.
Okay.
Eldegoss.
Okay.
Crustle.
Mm-hmm.
Alolan Ninetales.
Excellent.
Gengar, Absol. I don't know how many I've said now, but that's most of them. They got some weird picks in there, and I really respect that. Cramorant?
Hello? Yes. I love a weird pick in a Pokemon game roster. I love Chandelure in Pokken.
Yeah, no, definitely the best. I remember seeing this. It was like organizing the characters in Pokken by body type, and it was like bipeds, quadrupeds, Chandelier.
What would he be? He's like a sextiped?
I guess so. Like you could functionally classify him as an octopus.
Oh, okay. So an octoped,
basically.
Non-a-ped.
But yeah, so yeah, no, that's what I think that's definitely a way to do it. Is just to have like a partner for these bigger games, but instead they're going and working on the big open game on their own, and they subcontracted the easier, less ambitious one to a different studio.
I really wish.
I guess they wanted they keep their. I guess it's a certain amount of pride that they have for their product.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, I respect it. I really do. I understand that and what that tells to me is that they're treating this as the next core entry, which I think is really cool.
Well, it's like it is still a Pokemon game that's still going to have like what appears to be regular Pokemon battles in it.
Yeah.
Which like at first it looked like it was going to be like some kind of like weird like action RPG stuff. But I think that the action RPG elements are mostly like outside of the battle. But I guess we'll see when there's more footage of the game.
Yeah, the thing is, my initial reaction when I saw it was that it just doesn't look finished. And I know it comes out a year from now or more. Right. And, you know, obviously no games when they're this far out are anywhere near finished.
There's a lot of placeholder animations, you can really tell.
And it's not that it doesn't look finished. It doesn't look like the prototype is finished almost. Like I understand like an actual game prototype is much rougher than the footage that we've seen.
Yes.
It just looks really janky in a way that a game that is coming out in a year I don't think ideally should. And this is one situation where the Pokemon companies, like, I can't think of the last time they delayed a game. I don't think they've ever delayed a game.
They don't. They just don't do it.
And even within Nintendo, I mean, Nintendo is, I think, famous for the right reasons for delaying games. First of all,
Smash
actually, you know what? I'll come out and say, like, I'm always for a game being delayed, unless there are some very specific exceptions to that. But like, yeah, like I wish this game could get delayed, because every time I play a new Pokemon game, I think this could have if a couple extra years in the oven, and this would have been really great. And sometimes you get the version of that, which is like the third version, and it's just and then with the next game in on a console, the next generation on a given console always looks and plays a lot better. So
Yeah.
Game Freak, I love them. They're I love that they're, in terms of raw like sales, one of the biggest game developers on the planet.
I feel like if you were to adjust it like sales per like staff at the company, they're probably just number one.
They're probably number one, exactly. And
because it's like no studio doing that kind of volume has that few people.
I don't know where I'm getting
maybe
this
like
number
Minecraft.
from. I don't
maybe
know.
Mojang.
You're right. I don't know where I'm getting this number from, but I always think of them as being about 70 people. I feel like that may
I think that's right. They do bring in people.
Right.
They do hire seasonal staff, but I know that they do end up subcontracting out a lot of the Pokemon modeling work to Creatures.
Right.
Who are, of course, another one of the co-owners of the franchise. And honestly, I don't understand why Creatures isn't the one handling this spinoff.
Right. I mean,
it seems like they'd be perfectly. I mean, I think they are actually literally working on Detective Pikachu 2 right now, though.
Right. Was that ever confirmed? Was Detective Pikachu 2 the game confirmed?
It was, yeah.
Okay, that was so long ago.
It's supposed to be coming for Switch.
Right.
And the first one was made by Creatures on the 3DS.
Right. Yeah, this is just one I respect that they're taking upon themselves and treating it with the weight of like a full Pokemon game. But it's also not it's not generation what are we on now? 9? It's not generation 9 from our usual metric. It's not a new region.
It's 8 Pokemon. Or it's 8.5. It's one of the two.
Right. And
not entirely clear how that works, because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee aren't Gen 7 or Gen 8 really, because it has no lateral compatibility with any of those gens.
Right.
So like functionally it was between them. And I feel like that's how is it Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl? I can never remember.
Oh, I haven't even bothered remembering.
Yeah.
I just they're just doing Diamond Pearl
it's
again.
It's literally named like a fan game.
Yeah, it looks...
In fact, so is Pokemon Legends Arceus.
And also that title implies that they want to do more down the line. So I think that's cool. I'm sure the game will play fine. Like I think the systems will probably be enjoyable. It's just that also the next sticking point for me is that trailer was just tepid is the word that kept coming to mind for me. Like it just the music itself was like pretty, but it just didn't match the footage. It felt almost like it was playing on a screen.
It didn't feel as ambitious as they seem to want the concept to feel.
Right, like that wide shot was very like Breath of the Wild, and it just felt like, okay, like if you go back and look at the Breath of the Wild trailers, like even though the music in that game is very sparse, like the trailer music is very bombastic and animated. And in this,
it's very like Zelda classic.
Yeah, and this trailer is going for those Breath of the Wild gameplay vibes, but it's just making the gameplay look like pre-alpha. Then there's the frame rate issues. And again, I'm not a cop. I played and loved The Last Guardian, and I will bend so far backwards to arbitrarily stand by video game developers because I think of them as wizards who do the incredible things that I just couldn't possibly fathom. And on principle, I will side with them against the gamers.
Yes.
So I found myself in situations where I'm defending like the 8 frames per second dips of The Last Guardian and saying it actually makes the game better. Not believing it at all, but just on principle.
Yeah, on principle.
However, looking at this, it's like if they haven't ironed that out by now, who's to say they're going to iron it out in the next year?
I saw some people like discussing it like who know a little more than I do. And the way they described it is like the frame issues seem to be only on the Pokemon. So it might be that they're only like keyframe animated right now. and that it wasn't a performance issue so much, it was just wildly incomplete animations.
I mean, what I noticed was
that would worry me even more, honestly, considering the sheer volume of animations that would thus need to be done.
Right. The one thing I noticed is that just the Pokemon that are farther away from the camera are dropping frames, which is that's a normal technique in pretty much any game. Just
they should just go back to the N64 era and just put some fog in there.
Exactly. Just do that. But
just
the fact
reduce
that
the
you
draw
can
distance,
see it,
put a little bit of fog. It's Sinnoh.
Right.
Sinnoh is known for having fog.
I mean, it's a lot of fog.
Do you think that that they're just gonna have HMs straight up in this remake because they called it a super faithful remake?
Unfortunately,
you think that they're gonna make us deal with 8 HMs?
Yeah, I think so.
I wonder if they'll modify the system at all.
Maybe they'll. It's hard to modify it without breaking it.
I feel like the best way to do it, I've seen a couple ROM hacks do this, is if the Pokemon are compatible with the move, you don't have to teach them the move for them to use the field move.
Yeah.
So you don't need to waste the move slots, you just need to have the compatible party members. I like that idea.
Was there not a Pokemon game that did that?
Not as far as I know.
No, I'm thinking of Let's Go, where you can assign it to.
Yeah, it's just Eevee does them.
Yeah.
Or Pikachu if you're playing that version.
Right.
Which that system is also cool, but also at the same time it was very stupid.
I've always thought
you have a weird flying machine that
why can't you
pilot
just give your kid a flashlight? Like why would it break the universe to like the rules of the game universe to give the kid a flashlight? Or a canoe.
Yeah, well, I mean, like they've just stopped making Flash and HM,
right?
Largely, even in like the later games with HMs. So
these caves are just brightly lit.
That's another way they can gate the progress, though. Is just like make it be an item instead. You don't have to waste a whole slot on it.
I am interested in seeing how they approach an open world, just in terms of Game Freak has only ever done these very gated, very linear worlds, and they've been getting much more linear from generation to generation.
Yeah. Galar is just a series of hallways.
Yep.
Although I will give, I guess I've never really discussed these on the podcast since they all came out since the last episode, but the DLC has a lot of very, very nice looking areas.
Yeah.
Especially the second one, Crown Tundra, like the caves are something you're actually capable of getting lost in. Yeah. Because they're constructed in a way that's not super, super linear. And I think that they do have the capacity for a better environmental design, and I feel like they have a better handle on the engine now. One thing that's definitely good for Pokemon Legends Arceus is that it is supposed to be strictly single player and not something that's I think if it has online connectivity, it might just be to Pokemon Home or something. I've always maintained that the best thing that they could do for compatibility with battling is just to release a battle sim for the Switch.
Yeah,
I feel like it would do numbers.
Oh, especially if it was free. And
if it was free, yeah, that's the only way it could really do it.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon as a game as service is money that just is waiting to be made. Especially if you give your Pokemon, I don't know, stupid outfits, make Pikachu floss or whatever. I think lot about why isn't Pokemon Critical Mass esports yet? It is esports. Don't get me wrong.
They just do not support the scene in any way that is meaningful. That's the idea that I get from everyone who does it. Because there is 2 Pokemon players that are on an esports team. 2.
Right.
And they have both been on this podcast before.
Well, congratulations.
It's Wolf Glick and Aaron Zhang. But yeah, it's not really a supported scene, and I think a lot of it is in the way that Game Freak approaches the competitive design. One, they make you switch to every new game as it comes out, so there's no continuity with the scene. I think that is very likely to change with the Diamond and Pearl remakes coming out, because I just don't see them switching to it as their main competitive game.
No.
I think just the way that it is clearly marked as a spin-off series, even though the battles basically just look like Sword and Shield battles.
Right.
I don't think that they're going to have Dynamax in it. And that alone is enough to make it so that they won't use it in their competitive season.
Yeah, that goes back to why I think it'll appeal to the more technically minded Pokemon fans, because like I play Pokemon the same exact way since I was 8 years old. Like Pokemon looks cool, I catch it, and then the game is super easy, so I beat it because it's for children. And
then I collect everything, and then I stick them in a big box.
And then people like me leech off of people like you. I'm like, hey man, I need a Pokemon from my Pokedex. Can you help me out? And
I'm like, I have 8,000 of these. You can have one.
Exactly. And you know what? I never did finish. I was literally one Pokemon away from finishing my Galar region dex, and then they expanded the dexes, so I was like, well, I'm not going to complete it now.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to get everything in the expanded dex, mind you, because like you don't even have to evolve stuff for dex quests anymore, because like everything has a wild static encounter.
Okay, I mean that helps because I was going for the living dex, and
yeah, of course,
first time
you can just go catch one of everything.
I mean that's great, and I did really enjoy. I know it's off topic, but hey, this hadn't come out last time we recorded, so I did really enjoy like the roguelite mode that they added to Crown Tundra. I enjoyed that actually fun. A lot more than I thought I would. And with there being as many new Pokemon as there are, by new I mean like since I first started playing them, the feeling of seeing a new Pokemon is kind of lost on me. I do my best to know the designs of as few new Pokemon going into a new generation as I can, especially because now it's like averaging like 50 or 60 new Pokemon per region.
Well, it's a lot less that you get coming in. So yeah, you want to be surprised, right?
I mean, I was so spoiled. I'm so mad at myself when Black and White came out, because that was the last generation that did not have a simultaneous worldwide release, right?
Yes.
So that came out in Japan in like September 2010?
Yes. And then I naturally purchased a flash cart and then played a poorly fan-translated copy of it that same September.
I mean, what were you going to do? Wait 3 months? Or
no.
Absolutely not.
What am I, a Democrat?
No. Yeah, I remember being on Bulbapedia and be like, okay, Kiko, this can go one of two ways. You can go into this completely fresh in like March, or you can just look at them all now. And I looked at all of them, and like I didn't know how good I had it. Like 150 new Pokemon? Are you kidding me?
156. It's still the largest generation.
I know, and
the largest generation is the 5th one.
It's still one of my favorites. It was just, but I also just think about how like what I consider for someone like me, because like I'm not. I've tried. I can't. No, I haven't really tried. I've made very half-assed attempts to try to understand the deeper, more complex side of Pokemon games, and I just keep coming back to the fact like my favorite ones are usually just like the ones I have the most positive memories of, and I have no doubt that these new Pokemon games will be that for someone. So like I don't want to be a hater. I was recently told I'm a hater, and it wasn't.
I would not describe you as such. I know people who are just so much more of a hater than you that I couldn't imagine referring to you as a hater. Well, I'd refer to myself as more of a hater.
Right, and I don't think being a hater makes you a bad person or even an unpleasant person, which is
right. It's not the energy that you put forth.
And I wasn't told this as an insult. It was just like, oh, Kiko, you're totally a hater, and I was like, wait, what? And my friend was like, yeah, and then gave all these examples of times I was categorically being a hater, and I was like, oh my god, I'm a hater. Oh my god, what? So ever since then, I've really been trying. And look, I understand that Game Freak is an ambitious team for their size, and honestly, I feel like Pokemon is always safest in their hands, but this is the one situation. I feel like I made a wish on a monkey's paw, because like, I don't know if you saw it, but like a day or two before these announcements came out. And also, like, this is like a rare Nintendo announcement that wasn't leaked at all.
Yeah.
I mean, at least not on the places where I was looking.
I think it did get... I think it leaked like 7 hours before it happened. And it was really close. So, like, I was asleep.
I mean, if you didn't see it, did it really leak?
No, really.
Not really. It's not an official leak until you've seen it.
Yeah.
I made a tweet and I was like, I think Game Freak should outsource like a branch of the main franchise to another studio, let them take like 5-6 years to make it. Like I was thinking really big, like an actual Breath of the Wild, because you can't make Breath of the Wild in 2 years or however long this one's been in development. Let's assume part of Game Freak has been working on this since before Sword and Shield were completely done.
Probably somewhere around like DLC development start time.
Yeah, I mean, we can't assume that the entirety of Game Freak was working on the DLC for. So let's assume that some people at Game Freak have been working on this for a couple years, and it's still not even going to be scratching the surface of the size or scope of Breath of the Wild, which from in the initial marketing, it looks like that's what they want. They want it to be like the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon. And I was just thinking, like, why put that pressure on Game Freak? And I even said, like, it doesn't need to be a new region. It doesn't need to be new Pokemon. Just, like, core gameplay in, like, a big open world, super polished, like, AAA, quadruple A as all get out. Like, make a Red Dead Redemption 2 sized Pokemon game, except no one knows it's coming. So, no crunch. Just... And then we kind of got that, like, a couple days later, and, of course, it's my fault. So... If
you got the Monkey's Paw version of it. It's Game Freak themselves making it. They're not going to give themselves nearly enough time to do it.
Not nearly enough time. And like they have such a good track record with these simultaneous. Because like imagine you're working on like, I don't know, the Polish version and you need a little extra time and you're going to be the one who like fucks it up for everybody. You can't. like I just think I had the smallest sliver of understanding of how game publishing and development works. And even that makes my brain hurt. Just like the thought that like, these all need to be done at the same time. So like there's only so much of a scope that these games can have. And like I'm sure when it comes out, like some of the rough edges will be patched out.
Sanded down.
I'm sure the frame rate's gonna be like solid. Cause like a Pokemon game, like the frame rate's never like amazing. And again, I'm not a cop about frame rates. I
feel like the worst they've been is in Let's Go. When you're in Viridian Forest, there's like this like light trickle down effect that happens sometimes, and it just makes the game chug if there's like two Pokemon on screen.
I remember maybe you'll know the part I'm talking about, a specific area in Diamond and Pearl in the big city, Hearthome?
In Hearthome, yeah.
Hearthome? Is that a Hearthome or Hearthome?
I've never heard it said out loud, so I have no idea.
I mean, I also pronounce butthole Bathol, so I might be part of the problem. It might be a me problem. Is there? I just remember like running through that city and like the frame rate chugging for like a second, and me being
in that city, if you're on the bike and you're on the fastest speed and you like tweak your bike in a certain way, you can like clip the map loading and end up in a black void.
And that's where you find Mew.
Which you can actually get legendary Pokemon by traveling through this void.
Oh, really? Okay.
By like going certain distances and then like going to the underground and coming back out to basically reset the overworld map.
Yeah.
So like, that is a thing as well. And then of course there's the whole thing with Diamond and Pearl, notoriously that the HP bars scroll incredibly slowly because of the way they decided to program them.
Right. I remember just
and so if you close combat a Blissey, you can just go make a meal. You can just go make dinner.
And in fact, I have. No, that's not true. I haven't. That was also, oh my gosh, now I'm just thinking about my experience with Diamond and Pearl. Yeah, I'll probably get it. I've never not bought a Pokemon game.
I'm absolutely going to get it. For me, it's like, I don't really buy that many games. Mm-hmm. So like, it's not like taking another game out of my pocket to to get this game. It's probably the thing I'm going to enjoy the most if I were to get it. So like, for me, it's like, I get it. I'm going to get it. I can fully understand someone who's just like, I'm just going to skip this one.
Yeah, it is, I will say, the first Pokemon game I've ever considered like skipping. Diamond and Pearl weren't my favorites when I played them, but I grew fonder of them through nostalgia. It's crazy how that works.
I never really liked Diamond and Pearl all that much when I played them, and I didn't actually play Platinum for the first time till like last year.
Platinum, I think, probably holds up.
It improved a lot, and I'm really hoping that when they say that this is a faithful remake of Diamond and Pearl, that they don't mean it in the way that like
Right.
Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire were very faithful to Ruby and Sapphire and
Right.
not to Emerald.
Right.
Especially because like they're like not all the problems with Diamond and Pearl are like graphical at this point.
Nope.
In fact, I would say that that's like the least of their issues. There was like fundamental game design issues with Diamond and Pearl that will be replicated if you make the remakes too faithful.
Yeah.
Like the way that HMs are handled is just like fundamentally bad for getting around the region. The way that they gated progress like really arbitrarily with like the slow pokes that you don't know how to move. Like that was cute once, but it's like it's such an arbitrary way to gate progress that it's not it doesn't feel natural.
No. And
then like of course like the sheer number of times you have to cross through Mount Coronet. If there's like a way to go over it, if they want to add some extra routes there, something like that. And then, of course, the main fundamental problem with Platinum, with Diamond and Pearl that was fixed in Platinum is that there was only one fire type line that wasn't a starter that you could get in the entire main section of the game.
Which one was it?
If you wanted a fire type and you didn't start with Chimchar, you only got Ponyta. It was the only option you had.
How did they miss something like that? You know?
And so like they fixed that a little bit by allowing you Houndour and you can get Magby like somewhere relatively early.
Yeah, I think
then of course like the cross-gen evolutions were almost all gated to after the League in Diamond and Pearl.
I feel like they gotta have like an area like they had in Heart Gold and Soul Silver where you can catch like some more recent Pokemon, like just off the map. Oh, hey, we found this little island you can get here by boat.
They could do that. They could turn the Great Marsh into something like a wild area. Was something I thought that they could do if they made it like in like the Sword and Shield engine, but like now that's definitely not going to happen.
Yeah,
but they could make it more Safari Zone like. Who knows?
Man,
like,
talk about
the PAL Park. That's completely unnecessary in this game because of the way that transferring Pokemon works. That could be a Safari Zone down there.
It could.
I don't know. It's like how faithful they are it depends on what ways they're faithful. If they're faithful in certain ways, it's not going to be a fun time.
No, it's not.
But like if they, I really want to know more about this company because I want to know what the kind of stuff they're going for. Like some of the screenshots and some of the like press materials around the game suggest that like they might have a couple of platinum elements in there. Like there's the girl who gives you like the Gracidia flower for Shaman. People spotted like that NPC in the exact spot she is in platinum, which is like the kind of detail that I would never notice. But like, you know, thank God there's people who notice that kind of shit.
The funny thing
is, if there's mega evolutions, I would actually really love just like weird, stupid, overpowered forms of like Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia. Like, why not? Let's get weird with it. Like, do some weird shit with that.
I want like Primordial Arceus that's just like a bowl of soup.
Well, yeah,
Primordial soup.
He is at 720 base stat total, weaker than several legendaries. Come on, he is weak.
Is he
we need
God
a strong
or is
boy
he
again.
God? Like, if he's God, go full send. Just make him God. Like you turn.
Just make him God.
If you release him, the game shuts down. Like holy light, like it burns your Switch screen off.
Make him like you played through Sword and Shield, right? Like through the main campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Make a form of Arceus that's like the Eternamax Eternatus. That's just like several 100 feet long and base stat total over 1,000, and you can't use it.
You can't.
Just make a stupid powerful god form and you just can't catch it. It just
breaks the
work.
game. Breaks the game, literally.
The thing that makes me worry about that is like if they're making Pokemon Legends, are they even going to bother putting Arceus in the Diamond and Pearl remakes?
Yes, and here's my theory. In Pokemon Legends, you catch Arceus, and you're like, well, if he was caught several hundred years ago, like what happened? And then in Pokemon Shiny Diamond and Shiny or Pearl, you go up to Mount Coronet or wherever you find Arceus, and you just find like a skeleton wearing like the outfit from Legends and like a wooden Pokeball that's like cracked in half. So he got out.
Ooh.
He got out. Sinnoh-gy.
That's some good Sinnoh-gy.
Man, it's talking about like making a wish in Monkey Paw. I mean, I've not looked at any of like the Sinnoh remake accounts. I wonder if they're having a good time. Have you looked?
I feel like a lot of people are really unhappy with the way this game looks.
Right.
But I've seen a lot of people who are like, you know what, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's like there's a certain point where it's like I really think like even a bad Pokemon game is still a pretty good game, and I will generally enjoy myself even if it's like kind of boring. Because the thing is that Pokemon doesn't really take all my attention, and it never has.
No,
sorry. I mean, playing a Pokemon game will never take all my attention. Pokemon has naturally taken all of my attention.
Most of your attention.
It is most of what I am thinking about at any given time.
Which is natural.
But of course, again, I would be satisfied if they were just like, yeah, in this game we brought back the Sucker Punch tutor that was only in Pokemon Platinum, so that you can teach all these Pokemon Sucker Punch that have not been able to learn it since Pokemon Platinum.
And I mean,
that would be enough for me.
And I'm trying to think what the equivalent is for me, and I can't. This is the first time where I've just like I can't think of what the equivalent is for me. I will probably buy it.
If you have an equivalent for that, like you don't need to. I genuinely like. I don't like being the person who thinks like that. I just know that is who I am.
And you gotta be who you are.
I'm like, I want this game to come out so I can update my spreadsheets. This is the literal thing I've said out loud. So like, I want to update my currently 200,000 line long spreadsheet that I'm using to track Pokemon move learns that I'm going to turn into a web app. Like, this is where I'm at right now.
I mean, someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it. The person who was doing it before stopped doing it, so I'm doing it.
I mean, like my grandfather for like 30 years charted the thickness of the ice that would form on the lake near his house. And I was like, why? And he's like, someone has to do it.
Well, I'm sure that's definitely relevant climate data now.
It probably is. So
like you're just like at some point there's the National Weather Service is gonna be like, hey, has anyone been tracking the ice on this lake?
If only someone was tracking the ice on this lake in New Hampshire for like 20 something years, because that's the key. We're gonna crack this climate change.
And they'll solve climate change, and it'll be all thanks to your grandpa.
And it will be thanks to my grandpa, and he will be vindicated from beyond the grave. Miss you, Papa.
But yeah, so I guess where we kind of land on these is like, Pokemon Snap looks fucking sick.
Oh yeah.
We barely talked about that. You want to talk about Pokemon Snap?
Let's talk about new Pokemon Snap. Because
okay. I was about to like just bring in like closing stuff, and I'm like, you know what? We really haven't talked about Pokemon Snap like at all.
And I feel like we should end.
I'm literally just opening up the Cerebi page right now, so
we should end on an effusively positive note, if for no other reason so that I don't sound like a hater, which I'm really trying not to be. I'm really trying not to be a hater.
This game looks really fucking pretty.
It does look pretty, and I think it's a great example of how a Pokemon game can look pretty without, needing to be excessively stylized. Personally, the best graphics I've ever ever seen, what I thought were the best graphics in a Pokemon game, were on the 3DS Pokédex 3D app.
Okay.
The quality of the animations on that app were insane, and like the Pokemon looked a little bit textured, but they weren't cell shaded. And they just looked. They had realistic weight to them, and it was a cool app that I spent dozens of hours on simply because the 3DS had no games in its first year. It was a terrible app.
I really like the way that the Pokemon games looked on the 3DS. I think the cell shading really suited them.
It did.
The only problem is that a lot of their textures were just stupidly low res.
Yep.
And even on the 3DS looked bad.
And on the Switch, they look even more glaring. For
the most part, they replaced the textures, but at the same time, all they did was apply bloom effects instead.
Yeah.
So I mostly don't like how the Pokemon look on Pokemon Sword and Shield. I think Let's Go struck a really good balance.
Yeah.
I think those games look gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think this new Pokemon Snap shows how if you just tweak that a little bit, because none of these textures are, blowing your mind when you're watching this trailer, but the way that the Pokemon meld with the environments, and it looks a little bit vaporwavy, which I like.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit.
I think like the thing about Pokemon Snap is that it is like at its pure base, it is a first person on rails game.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you can have things in the environment that loop. You can reuse animations, you can set things on cycles, and it's like I feel like that actually does so much in making it look more lifelike. Yeah. I feel like it's something that it like even playing the old Pokemon Snap, I feel like it like even if those like obviously their systems are going to be a little more complex in this one because one, there's definitely going to be more than 63 Pokemon in this one. And then two, it's not the N64, so you can have a lot more processes looping at once than just a bunch of static animations that are just kind of scattered around this world. But like just even playing Pokemon Snap like years later, I'm like, there's enough life in these animations that it's like it puts enough out there in the world that I'm able to appreciate it. And this one's like it's that with more Pokemon and more lighting effects. And made by someone who's able to do a lot of polish. I mean, like Bandai Namco did Pokken, right? And that's like the only game that has bothered to put fur texture on any Pokemon,
right? And
so I feel like that alone. I mean, I guess other than like Detective Pikachu, which did it did too much fur texture,
right?
I mean, it did fur texture on things that shouldn't have fur texture.
We could do another episode about Detective Pikachu because you've never heard my unhinged opinions about it. That movie.
Are they good unhinged or bad unhinged?
I mean, I enjoyed it. That's the short version. I enjoyed it, and
I did enjoy that movie.
But I've got more to say about the approach they took to the designs of that Pokemon, of the Pokemon in that movie. But yeah, new Pokemon Snap, it just looks like a chill time. Like it just looks like the kind of game that you can put on and play like 15 minutes up before bed, and it's just gonna melt away.
We're still trying to decide if we're gonna buy two copies in our apartment, or if like one of us is gonna buy it, and then we're just gonna like kind of share around.
Is it gonna be a full price game? Is it up?
It is absolutely a full price game. This is Pokemon we're talking about.
That's the stupidest question I've asked today.
That's the thing that's making me consider not doing it. Is that it's a full price game? It's that why do we need to buy this? What will be in Canadian dollars $90 twice.
Oof.
Yeah, I know. Especially because I do not currently have a job. So,
right, but like you gotta get it.
Yeah,
but I mean, think about it.
If one of us gets it, then it's in the apartment.
How are you going to get a job if you don't have this game?
That's true. I can put it on my resume that I've taken pictures of every Pokemon.
You can, but also just like the quality of life your quality of life will go up so much by playing this game. It'll make the process of everything just much less stressful.
You're so right and so smart.
I'm so right. I'm so smart. And not even a little bit tired because I drank this whole can of Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. And you know what? I think I'm going to go get another when this is over.
Ooh, nice.
It's the freaking weekend, baby.
So they got the trailers that are out so far. I guess like Sarah B just like goes through all the trailers and then like finds every Pokemon that you can see and then just lists them on a big page.
Can I be honest with you about something? I have not gone to SarahB.net, though I love it, in about 17 years because for some reason I don't even remember why. It looks the
exact same.
I imagine it does. For some reason I don't remember why my mom told me not to go on there. And and I probably have. I'll just go right now. You know what? I'm an adult. Why did my mom tell me not to go on there?
I don't know.
Oh, I think
it is a relentlessly PG site.
It is. I'm going to go right now. Where Legends Come to Life.
Yeah, there's like a pretty good spread of Pokemon by generation down
this
here.
rules. This looks exactly how it always looked.
I know. I really respect Joe's decision to never update his website design. Except when I'm trying to look at it on my phone, and then I hate him with my life.
So there's one last topical topic that we haven't touched on, which was that Post Malone concert. What was up with that?
There sure was a Post Malone concert. I did watch the whole thing live as it happened.
I did not.
Because I'm just like, you know what? I'm morbidly curious. I kind of want to see what's going on. He will probably play the songs that I kind of like of his.
Probably.
So he did play the song Circles, where he has a line where he says, "It's just sex, though." And when he is saying that line, there is a Gyarados flying over his head. And someone posted just the clip of him saying that line to Twitter, and it is so fucking funny.
I thought they would.
I think there's something just like there's something weird in the way that Game Freak approaches partnerships.
Yeah.
That I feel like they are just completely out of step with their own audience.
Yeah, I feel like they asked...
Like, I know there's kids that are into Post Malone and that there's people who are genuinely enthusiastic about this concert, but it's like the biggest brand partnership like one of the biggest brand partnerships they've ever done. And it's with Post Malone?
I mean, it feels both like
and
disingenuous.
Post Malone covering Hootie and the Blowfish.
And it's good too. Like, it's
the cover,
good.
Yeah, Chase, it's a good cover.
It's a good cover, and like
it uses a fucking sample of the Ecruteak City.
That's my favorite.
Theme.
My favorite theme in Gold and Silver. And I listened to it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is good.
I can't believe he fucking won me over with that shit.
He did, and this.
Fuck you, Post Malone.
I know. Fuck you, Post Malone. Like, I do also enjoy like his work begrudgingly, and I begrudge it.
There's a lot of good gifs that came out of that performance. Not of him, because he kind of looked like shit.
He looked like
but just of Pokemon vibing in the background. Like, there's this really good gif of just like an Umbreon bobbing his head as Post Malone like serenades him in the forest.
I mean, it's not bad. Like, I went into it as like, this is gonna be bad, and it's weird, and I don't know how it came about, but it's not bad.
Well, yeah, it's just like their choices baffle me.
Yeah,
like there's like. If, like, Pokemon and Uniqlo, that was a partnership that made sense to me.
Right.
Just, like, Pokemon doing, like, a bunch of t-shirts with Uniqlo. Mm-hmm. That was, like, 2 years ago, I think. All the shirts were really good. I owned several of them.
I always enjoy a Uniqlo, like, branded, licensed t-shirt. Every time I go there, I'm like, oh, let me check out.
They're comfy.
Yeah, they're comfy. They're good quality cotton.
And I've been, like, wearing the same pair of Uniqlo pants for, like, undisclosed amount of time because they just are very comfy and they don't wear at all.
Right.
It's beautiful. But then like Pokemon and Levi's is a collaboration that they announced for Pokemon Day. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck wanted that?
I mean, I saw
Who
that.
Who the hell gives a shit about Levi's?
Me, when I saw that like grass type themed denim jacket that I'll never own because it's sold out,
that was
right away.
The only even remotely good looking item.
I'm gonna see what's even still available to purchase right now.
But like all the shirts look like shit.
Yeah, my sister bought one and
then
she
like
bought
musical collaborations, I'm like, I feel like you could do better than Post Malone, and apparently there's something with Katy Perry, but I never saw it come out.
I mean, it's planned. It's another Post Malone style musical collaboration, but it's not.
Right. Are they gonna do a whole concert with her? Is it just gonna be one track? Like is it gonna be another cover of a heralded 90s hit?
You'd have to ask her, and I think she's busy.
Okay. But see, the real question I'm asking is, why wasn't it Carly Rae Jepsen?
Why wasn't it? And this is kind of a scary question.
Ariana Grande is also a relevant pop star, and she literally has an Eevee tattoo.
I mean, yeah, I have to think Ariana, I can safely guess maybe she was too busy. I don't want to say that Carly Rae isn't busy, because she's always working on something amazing.
She writes 800,000 songs a year.
So the reason I'm scared to ask that question is, and I'm worried the answer would be that she didn't want to, and that hurts.
No!
That hurts. That would hurt.
This is possible.
I mean, obviously that wouldn't change my love for her. But
do you see that some of the songs from Disco Sweat leaked?
Oh no. No, I will not listen to a leaked Carly Rae song. I won't.
You're valid. They are very unpolished.
But
it's like she said that she recorded a disco album.
Wait, this is a Pokemon. This is a Pokemon podcast. This is a Pokemon podcast.
Hey, I'm allowed to talk about Carly Rae Jepsen on any podcast.
You're absolutely right, and I apologize.
But yeah, no, their brand collaborations have always kind of weirded me out a little bit. It's just like it feels like you can make cooler decisions. And then like I just always think of like when like a lot of things were doing amiibo compatibility. Like Pokemon never did any like other like cross Nintendo stuff.
Right.
Like you were able to use the Pokemon amiibo in Mario Maker 1, but they didn't have like any custom sound effects or anything. They were just like you scan the amiibo, you had the character, that's it. Like there was no extra stuff with like Animal Crossing. Can you imagine how fucking cute a Pikachu villager would be?
Don't get me started. I've thought about this for at least
every single person who likes both franchises has thought of this, and like at least half of those people have done fan art of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at my Charizard amiibo right now. actually, believe it or not, the only amiibo I have on this desk at the moment.
Wow. How is your amiibo collection? I feel like the last time we talked about your amiibo collection was when we recorded episode 1 of Feels Good Man, the podcast.
Oh, the first of many excellent episodes, I'm sure, to come.
Yeah, of course. I do still have my recording for that.
I'm sure
for
I
sentimental
do.
reasons.
I think I must have it somewhere. What year was that?
The only collection of them I have that's complete is Pokemon. I will buy any Pokemon amiibo as it comes out.
I think that was the last one.
Which just means I will buy a new Pokemon amiibo every time it comes with Smash Bros.
You know, I'm gonna check the Nintendo store right now and just see if there's any Pokemon. I do like to have the Pokemon ones. The last one I bought was...
do you have Incineroar?
Huh?
Do you have Incineroar?
I don't, and I should.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a Pokemon one.
They're selling Dodo Airlines themed bomber jackets.
Ooh,
that's pretty nifty.
That sounds sick.
$80, so you know it's probably an okay quality. Probably not.
I'm genuinely wondering if there's going to be another Pokemon added to Smash Bros in the DLC. There's 2 DLC slots left.
Not. You know, I try not to be a cop ever, especially not about things like Smash Bros. But yeah.
I feel like adding another Pokemon will piss off more people than it'll please.
Yeah, we've got
but at the same time, I don't think that Nintendo necessarily cares about that.
Oh, this Ivysaur amiibo is pretty good. Add to cart. Just kidding. I shouldn't be spending the money. But, Squirtle, add to cart. All right.
No, Squirtle's good.
I mean, I can't not have Cat Peach.
You can't not have Cat Peach.
I have the image of...
I'm really glad that I've got you back into your habit.
Yeah, I have the image of a horny loser to maintain, so I need to have Cat Peach.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, that's now it's $50 of amiibos. See, this is why I had to quit. This is why I had to quit cold turkey. That's the answer. Last one I bought was the Hero, Dragon Quest Hero, because I love that guy. Love that game.
Yeah, he's cool.
You know what? They should just get Dragon Quest team to make a Pokemon game. Let's just see how that goes.
Yeah, they'd probably do a pretty good job.
Good job.
I'm just thinking about just the sheer amount of content in Dragon Quest 11. And then thinking about the fact that it costs less than a Pokemon game.
Oof. Oh, I mean, just a PSA in case anyone needs it. That game is on sale right now on the PlayStation Store, the definitive edition, which is the way to play it. If you,
that's the only one that's available on Switch, as far as I know.
Yeah,
is the definitive edition.
I mean, I would buy it on Switch because I'm loyal, but and you can take it with you. But Pokemon podcast.
I mean, yeah, no, it's like. That's something that people will bring up a lot when it's discussing like the amount of content in Pokemon games. It's like I'm not necessarily looking for the supreme in-depth RPG experience that some people are looking for in their Pokemon games. No. But you really can't argue with the fact that there are teams that make super expansive giant RPGs and price them for less money.
And they also don't always have something to do. So give them a Pokemon game for gosh sakes. I mean, sometimes they do it, like that Nobunaga's Ambition game.
Yeah, that game was cool.
Like, when it's a crossover or something, that's where, they get a little bit loosey-goosey and experiment. And I actually didn't play that game, but I feel like you could apply... Pokemon's one of those brands that you could apply a Pokemon filter to pretty much anything, and it would at least be interesting.
Yeah, well, it's like the last time they had someone do a Pokemon RPG that wasn't like them and then the ones making the new one was when they had Genius Sonority make the 2 ones for the GameCube, which I maintain are some of the best Pokemon games.
I mean...
And deserve to be remade for the Switch more than anything else. But unfortunately, they've had Genius Sonority trapped in the puzzle dungeon for like 15 years now. They are now on their 3rd separate Pokemon puzzle game series. Oh, no. With Pokemon Cafe Mix on the Switch.
Oh,
rather than giving me what I deserve and bringing back Mirror B.
Whatever Mirror B is.
Mirror B is a villain from Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD who is a tall, like, disco suit wearing villain who has 5 Ludicolo and on his team and a giant Pokeball shaped afro.
I remember this guy.
And his theme is amazing, and he deserves to exist again in a mainline Pokemon game. And that's why I think the next thing that Genius Sonority should do is remaking Pokemon Colosseum and XD, and possibly a 3rd game in the same region, and putting these all in one package on the Switch.
Well, it's a good thing we're recording this podcast right now, because that way when they listen to it, they'll just do that.
Yeah, when they finally deign to hire me because like honestly I deserve it.
Right, and so do I, just for the record, and Game Freak, Pokemon Company International, if anyone is listening.
At this point, I've done so much work with Pokemon Learn sets that I feel like I could confidently do the Pokemon Learn sets for an entire generation of Pokemon single-handed.
I have drawn every Pokemon, especially the ones in the Eevee evolution line, so many more times than Ken Sugimori has at this point. For paid commission work. I'm doing another one right now. I thought I'd never do this again. I thought I'd never have to do another Pokemon commission again. And I say have to like it's unpleasant. It's not unpleasant. It's very pleasant. Very pleasant.
I like paying people to do Pokemon commissions. So,
it's great because everyone likes to draw Pokemon. But I haven't had those commissions open for quite a while. Luckily, I haven't had to. But a previous client recently reached out to me and asked for another. And I was like, well, why not? I'm not doing anything.
That's money, baby.
And then it's like all bug types. And I'm like, you know what? I love a challenge.
Bugs are good.
Bugs are good, but they're also like the most like complex Pokemon to draw far and away.
Yeah,
and
understandable.
It's like 8 of them. So not even like a regular sized team. It's like 7.
Oh, dang.
7. And so that's what I got to look forward to.
That sounds like fun.
It is fun. It's drawing Pokemon. I'm not going to complain. So Pokemon Company International, if you're listening, and I know you are, I can confidently draw 7 or 8 different bug type Pokemon fully evolved.
Ooh.
Fully evolved. And they'll look good.
Yeah, this is our resume. Just listen to us talk shit about you for roughly an hour and 20 minutes and then decide that we know good and do hire of us.
Do hire of us, preferably you. Mm-hmm. I had to think
as long as I can work remotely. I don't want to leave Canada.
Oh, I'm just looking at these Levi's jeans and they're bad.
They're bad. And all the shirts look bad.
The one that's not bad is the one that's not Pokemon branded in any way. So why is it on the Pokemon page?
Don't worry about it.
I guess they were just thinking about Pokemon when they made it. Yeah, they look like the Pokemon died and are haunting the jeans. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the one with the Gengar face on the butt. And I kind of like the one where you can barely tell that those are Pokemon.
And that just reminded me, though, you know, and one of the like branded Pokemon collaborations that was actually pretty good. That like Japanese band Bump of Chicken. They did that music video.
Love Bump of Chicken. Would love to listen to their music someday, but I get enough out of the name of their band. Enough enjoyment.
They did a music video. They did a song. The song's not about Pokemon as far as I can tell. But the music video is just like a little story told, and there's just Pokemon everywhere. And they have like trainers from all the different regions popping up in the video, and a lot of Pokemon popping up in the video. And it's like just like a really well animated video, and the collaboration is fun, and they're clearly big fans because they promoted it and released it as a single.
Why didn't
anyone
they call
who hasn't seen that
Bump of Torchic?
Should check that out. Well, I mean, because their band was already called that.
Weak excuse.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so I guess that's our litany of opinions on most recent Pokemon announcements.
You heard about this Pokemon Go? You heard about this Pokemon Go thing? Have you heard about? I just found out.
I play Pokemon Go every single day of my life. Still to this day.
Really?
I played it for several hours today on like a 6-year-old phone because my other phone was broken, and I caught a bunch of shiny Fletchling. Now I have some shiny.
Is it worth getting back into if I have? Because
I feel like you can pick it up anytime.
I'll never complete the Pokedex. So like, what's the point?
You can get closer to completing the Pokedex, I guess is the best way to put it. I've reached the point where there's so many like regionals and like specifically gated Pokemon or things that come out in certain events that it's like I just like see my progress towards it as always slow. I think it's still worth getting into just because it's like it's another good excuse for going outside other than just the getting exercise is good for the human form.
I feel like that's probably not true.
Have
you tried lying in bed? That feels great.
It feels great until everything hurts.
Right, but then you just
which does happen.
Go to sleep. And
this happens less if you walk regularly. I'm promoting what I'm plugging at the end of this episode is I'm plugging the concept of just going outside and taking a little walk.
I'll do you one better.
And maybe playing Pokemon while you do it. You can play Pokemon Go while you're walking outside.
I'll do you one better. I say strap on that the Pokewalker, for Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Drop that in your pocket and go for a 1/4 mile run. A 1/4 mile feels great to run. And
I don't know what a mile is. I live in civilization.
Right. Well, if you're in the hellscape from the cover of the video game Doom, that was actually a picture of the United States of America. That's not a painting.
Yes. It is a photo, yeah.
So I live right underneath the little crag where Doom Guy is standing. And what I like to do is, I like to go out and I like to put on my Pokemon Walker and I like to run a 1/4 mile, which I guess would be like a different measurement.
It'd be like 0.4 kilometers.
Yeah, there we go. I would have gotten there eventually.
Wait, that doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it's right.
Okay, I knew it sounded right. And just it's like walking, but you go a little bit faster, and then it feels worse, but then it feels better. And I've actually been
really
doing
makes
that.
You think.
I've been doing that like twice a week. And,
nice.
Sometimes I'll even go farther than that, like 2 or 3 miles. And,
dang.
And then you can come home and then you've caught like an Eevee on your Pokewalker. And you can transfer that to Pokemon Heart Gold or Soul Silver, and then transfer that to Pokemon Black or White or Black 2 or White 2, and then transfer that to Pokemon X or Y or Omega Ruby or Alpha Sapphire or Sun or Moon or just into Pokemon Bank?
Bank is that one, yes.
And then to Pokemon Home. And
you have to transfer it to Pokemon Bank to get it into those other games.
So in just a few hours, you can go from having had no exercise and no cool Pokemon to having had some exercise and a cool Pokemon, if not several. I mean, and then there's
a substantial amount of effort to get those to your new game.
Right. And you know what? If Ring Fit Adventure has taught me anything, is that exerting physical effort makes video games more rewarding. So honestly, if you're looking for new Pokemon content to tide you over until the release of these two, and I can't speak highly enough of these 2 games that they've just revealed. They clearly look excellent, and anything that I've said that sounded less than enthusiastic about them was all the.
Don't worry, I've already deleted it all.
Right,
it's all gone. Only your positive praise remains.
What's gone?
Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
What if they made a version of Ring Fit that was just Pokemon?
LinkedIn?
Like they make Ring Fit?
Oh, I thought you said LinkedIn.
I would never say LinkedIn.
I would never say LinkedIn at all.
What if they just made Ring Fit but Pokemon? Instead of an extremely buff, sexy dragon, it's an extremely buff, sexy Lucario.
I mean, extremely buff.
So it's Lucario.
Sexy, yeah. Lucario is redundant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone it's one of those. Lucario is one of those character designs that I look at. I'm like, it's not overtly horny, but someone was horny drawing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's the feet. That's how you tell.
For me, it's the hair, like the tendrils.
The tendrils.
I wouldn't call them tendrils. They're more like clumps. They're more like.
I will spend a significant amount of time studying his design on Google Images with the safe search off. And I'll get back to you on that.
Godspeed.
All right, so I think we've reached the natural conclusions of this conversation.
Yeah.
We have discussed the new announcements, we've discussed some older announcements, and we've talked about Lucario.
And whether or not his hair is made of flesh or if it's just fur.
Now, the ribbons on Sylveon, those are all flesh, right? They're flesh ribbons?
Yeah, because they're prehensile.
Yeah, okay, so that is flesh. Just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Right.
So, Kiko, is there anything that you would like to plug or any social media you would like to share? Do you wish for people to perceive you in any way other than this podcast?
I was kind of hoping that this podcast would kind of be my simultaneous debut and retirement from any kind of public image. But if you must find me, I'm at Royal Pizza Boy on Twitter and at Kiko B. Bell on Instagram. I think those are correct. I'm reading them off of my hand here, so it's possible.
Do you have to write those back on there every morning?
I do. And
yeah, because they just sweat right out.
I use a fountain pen, so it's both painful and washes off very easily.
Yeah, that would happen.
But if I don't do it every morning, I'm going to forget.
Yeah, naturally. How are you supposed to remember your social media otherwise? There's no other place you could write it.
I also have my social security number on here. Do you need that?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay. It's
All right, just going to censor that. And so thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
My name is Matt. You can find me on Twitter at MattGCN. You can follow my other podcasts at you can find them all at noisespace.xyz, which is also where this podcast itself is hosted, and many other good such podcasts that update far more frequently than this one, unless they're one of my other podcasts that I haven't updated since 2016.
Or mine.
As one does. Well, your podcast, I do link to your podcast on there, but I do not have the episodes of your podcast individually linked.
Someday, maybe you will.
Maybe if I have to do that, I will do it.
If you must.
I must.
Nobody got it.
They're pretty good episodes. I would highly recommend checking out the 2 existing episodes of Kid Fight.
They're okay. I think Kid Fight, in hindsight, was a funny to me at 3 a.m. when I thought of it title. I would have gone with Ring the Bells in hindsight.
That is, yeah.
But then that indicates a call-in aspect to the show, which would be even more of a cluster hug to
absolute nightmare
to coordinate. So if it ever comes back, it will be rebranded as Ring the Bells. You heard it here first.
All right.
Probably with a really 1960s easy listening style theme song, and maybe just one other sibling, because
just one at a time.
Just me and someone else. Any of them.
That's fucked up. I don't think I'd understand it if there wasn't
all 6.
If there wasn't 6, yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Okay, much to consider.
All right, so I'm going to end this episode the way I usually end the episodes, by going to thanksbulbapedia.tumblr.com and just reading out some stuff that they have on there.
Please do.
On May 10th, 2016, the Canadian government tweeted about the Pokemon franchise, asking followers which Pokemon they believed to be the most Canadian. Among the most frequent responses were Bidoof and Sawsbuck.
One of those is much more flattering than the other.
I know. I mean, Bidoof is cute.
Bidoof is cute.
Here's another one that's good. I don't actually know who this character is, but Alva is purely evil with no redeeming characteristics.
I've been saying that for years, and yet we still have not canceled Alva.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
I might record another episode sometime soon, and I might not record for another year. We never know. See ya!
Bye.
Thank you.